The morning was like any other at the Global Defense System Command. Lieutenant Colonel Jake Martinez stretched in his chair, his eyes lazily scanning the data stream on his monitor. Working 300 feet below Cheyenne Mountain had its perks: stable temperature, reliable coffee machine, and the comforting knowledge that if the world ended, at least he'd be among the last to know. "Another riveting day in space surveillance," he muttered, taking a sip from his mug emblazoned with the GDSC logo. 15 years of watching empty space had dulled his expectations of ever finding anything interesting. The system monitored everything from asteroids to space debris, cataloging potential threats to Earth. So far, the most exciting event had been tracking a discarded Russian satellite that had broken into precisely 13 pieces. Jake's team occupied a section of the sprawling underground complex dedicated to early detection. Their advanced quantum sensors, positioned throughout the solar system, could detect objects as small as a baseball from millions of miles away. It was impressive technology with virtually nothing to detect. The soft hum of the air conditioning and the gentle click of keyboards created a soothing white noise in the command center. Technicians and analysts went about their business with the comfortable lethargy of a routine long established. Some were discussing weekend plans. Others were quietly completing reports. Jake glanced at his watch, 9:42 Mountain Time. Another 7 hours until his shift ended. That's when the first alarm sounded. At first, he thought it was a system test. They ran those monthly, and he'd lost track of the date. But when the second and third alarms joined in rapid succession, creating a cacophony that instantly silenced all conversation, he knew something was wrong. "We have multiple anomalies," announced Specialist Rodriguez, her voice cutting through the noise. "Sector 17, approaching from beyond Pluto's orbit." Jake straightened in his chair. "How many?" "Initial count is 50 objects." "Not unheard of. Probably a cluster of meteors." Jake moved to Rodriguez's station, leaning over her shoulder to examine the readings. "Size estimate?" Rodriguez tapped her screen. "Processing now. That can't be right." The number changed as the system updated. 500 objects. "Recalibrate the sensors," Jake ordered, feeling the first flutter of genuine concern. "Could be solar interference." "Already did, sir. Count is still climbing." By now, others had gathered around. The alarm continued its insistent wail, and Jake noticed the pitch had changed. The system had automatically elevated the threat level. 5,000 objects now, Rodriguez reported, her voice tightening. "Each one is massive, stadium-sized at minimum." Jake stared at the screen. The objects were arranged in a perfect geometric formation, moving at a constant velocity directly toward Earth. No natural phenomenon created patterns like that. "Get me a direct feed from the Kuiper Belt sensors," he said, fighting to keep his voice level. The main display screen flickered and then showed the raw data stream. There was no mistaking it now. Tens of thousands of objects, each precisely identical in size and shape, approaching in a coordinated formation. "Final count," Rodriguez whispered. 50,000 objects. The command center fell silent. Even the alarms seemed distant now, as the magnitude of what they were seeing sank in. Jake took a deep breath. "Contact NORAD, the Pentagon, and the White House, in that order. Authentication code Sierra 9 Echo 47. Tell them we have a confirmed Class 1 event." Class 1, the designation they had created but never expected to use. Intelligent, non-terrestrial contact, with apparent hostile intent. "And someone get Dr. Elizabeth Kane on the line," Jake added. "Tell her Prometheus needs to wake up." Within 30 minutes, the President's science advisor, Dr. Elizabeth Kane, was escorted into the command center. Her usual composed demeanor was intact, but Jake noticed the tightness around her eyes. She'd been briefed en route. "Lieutenant Colonel Martinez," she said, extending her hand. "I wish we were meeting under different circumstances." "Likewise, Dr. Kane." Jake led her to the central station, where the latest data was displayed. They've accelerated. Current trajectory puts them at Earth in 17 hours. Dr. Kane studied the displays, her sharp eyes taking in the formations and calculations. Have they responded to communication attempts? We've tried all frequencies and protocols established in the First Contact Directive. Nothing. The command center had transformed in the past half hour. Additional personnel had arrived, and workstations that had been dormant for years were now humming with activity. The atmosphere had shifted from routine boredom to focused intensity. The President is convening an Emergency Security Council meeting in 20 minutes, Dr. Kane said. The G7 leaders will join virtually. We need to present options. Jake gestured to a secure conference room. We have a direct link set up in there. As they moved toward the room, a junior officer approached. Sir, Captain Grant is on secure line 3. She says it's regarding Prometheus status. Jake and Dr. Kane exchanged glances. We'll take it in the conference room, Kane replied. Captain Michelle Grant's face appeared on the screen, her expression serious. Unlike most military personnel, she wore no insignia or identification on her plain black uniform. I've been briefed, she said without preamble. Prometheus assets are being brought to full operational status. How long? Dr. Kane asked. 4 hours to complete activation, another 6 to position. We'll be ready before they reach Mars orbit. Jake leaned forward. 500 vessels are enough? Captain Grant's expression didn't change. It was always designed as a last line of defense, Colonel, not a first strike capability. And if they attack before you're in position? The quantum barrier should hold temporarily, but Prometheus is our only real option here. Jake nodded. 15 years of secret development, trillions of dollars in black budget funding, and a technology so advanced that fewer than 20 people on Earth fully understood it. Project Prometheus had been humanity's insurance policy against exactly this scenario. The Security Council will want details, Dr. Kane said. They'll get what they need to know, Captain Grant replied. Nothing more. Operational security remains paramount. The feed cut out, leaving Jake and Dr. Kane alone in the conference room. She's confident, Jake observed. Dr. Kane gathered her tablet. She has to be. Now we need to convince the world's leaders to put their faith in a weapon they've never seen, against an enemy we know nothing about. Across the vast emptiness of space, aboard the command vessel of the Voran Empire's 7th Conquest Fleet, Admiral Zexar observed the tactical display with satisfaction. Primitive detection systems, he noted to his second-in-command. They've only just noticed us. Commander Vrel nodded. As expected, Admiral. Their technology is at least 3 centuries behind ours. The conquest should be straightforward. Admiral Zexar had led 17 successful planetary subjugations during his illustrious career. Earth would be his 18th, a minor world on the galactic fringe, but one with abundant resources and a large population that could be put to work in the Empire's mines and factories. Prepare the standard ultimatum, Zexar ordered. Offer them the usual terms: immediate surrender, resource tribute, and population control measures. Allow them 1 planetary rotation to decide. And if they refuse? Vrel asked. Though he knew the answer. Zexar's 4 eyes narrowed slightly, the Voran equivalent of a smile. Then we demonstrate our power. Their largest military installation should suffice. The Admiral turned his attention back to the tactical display. 50,000 warships, each capable of reducing a city to ash, arranged in perfect formation. The Earth forces would be overwhelmed in minutes. It was almost disappointingly easy. Such a primitive species, he mused. They haven't even attempted interstellar travel. What Admiral Zexar couldn't know was that humanity had chosen a different path. Rather than reaching outward, they had turned their scientific genius inward, to the fundamental nature of reality itself. The United Nations Security Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 15 nations talked over each other as real-time data from the GDSC continued to stream onto their devices. "Silence!" The Secretary General's voice cut through the din. "We must maintain order. Dr. Kane, please continue your assessment." Elizabeth Kane stood at the podium. Her image simultaneously broadcast to the G7 leaders and dozens of other heads of state around the world. "The objects are definitely artificial and moving with purpose. Their trajectory has been adjusted twice to maintain a direct approach to Earth. These are vessels, not natural phenomena, and they are coming here deliberately." The Chinese representative spoke first. "What are their capabilities? Can our combined military forces repel them?" "Based on their technology level, evidenced by their propulsion systems and energy signatures, conventional weapons would be ineffective," Dr. Kane replied. "Their energy shielding alone would render missiles useless." "Then what options do we have?" demanded the French president from his video feed. "Surrender." President Murphy of the United States had been listening quietly. Now he leaned forward. "We have an option. Project Prometheus." A murmur ran through the chamber. Most had heard rumors of a classified defense initiative but knew nothing concrete. "Prometheus is a joint international defense system," President Murphy continued, "developed in secret over 15 years by a coalition of scientists from 12 nations. It was created precisely for this scenario." "Why are we only hearing about this now?" the Russian representative asked sharply. "Because until today, it was theoretical that we would ever need it," Dr. Kane interjected. "The technology involved is revolutionary. It had to remain classified." "What exactly is this technology?" asked the British Prime Minister. President Murphy nodded to Dr. Kane, who touched her tablet. The chamber's displays changed to show a schematic of what appeared to be a sleek, triangular vessel. "Prometheus represents a fundamental breakthrough in our understanding of quantum mechanics and dimensional physics," she explained. "These vessels can manipulate probability fields and create localized tears in the fabric of space-time." The technical explanation continued, but the implications were clear. Humanity had developed weapons that operated on principles beyond conventional physics, beyond what even an advanced alien civilization might expect. "How effective will these be against 50,000 alien ships?" asked the Secretary General. "We have 500 Prometheus vessels," President Murphy said. "Captain Michel Grant assures me they will be sufficient." The debate raged for another hour. Some nations advocated attempting communication again. Others suggested immediate surrender to avoid potential annihilation. In the end, the vote was not unanimous, but the majority supported activating Prometheus. "May God help us all," the Secretary General said as the session concluded. Back at the GDSC, Jake Martinez watched the alien fleet's approach with growing anxiety. They had crossed Neptune's orbit and were continuing their unwavering path toward Earth. His secure line beeped. "Martinez." "Colonel, this is Captain Grant. We're moving Prometheus into position. You should be receiving telemetry data now." Jake turned to a separate monitor, which now showed 500 small signals emerging from concealed positions throughout the solar system. Hidden bases on moons and asteroids where the Prometheus vessels had been stored. "I see them, but against 50,000. "Numbers aren't everything, Colonel," Grant replied. "When dealing with quantum probability manipulation, conventional military calculations don't apply." Jake wanted to believe her. He had to believe her. "The aliens will reach optimal strike range in 3 hours. Will you be in position?" "We'll be ready. Grant out." As the communication ended, a new alert sounded. "Sir," called Specialist Rodriguez, "we're detecting a transmission from the alien fleet. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, in multiple Earth languages." "Put it through," Jake ordered. The voice that filled the command center was deep and resonant, with an odd flanging quality that suggested electronic translation. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Zexar of the Varan Empire. Your planet has been selected for incorporation into our domain. Submit to our authority, and your transition to imperial rule will be orderly. Resist, and we will demonstrate our power before subjugating you by force. You have one rotation of your planet to decide. Any military action will be met with immediate retaliation. The message repeated once, then ended. Silence filled the command center for several seconds before Jake spoke. "Get me a direct line to Captain Grant." When Grant's face appeared on the screen, Jake could see she was now in what appeared to be the command center of a Prometheus vessel. "We received the ultimatum," he said. Grant nodded. "So did we. The President is preparing a response, but it's mostly a delaying tactic. We need another 2 hours to get all vessels in optimal position." "Can we stall them that long?" "We're about to find out. Stand by." The screen split to show President Murphy in the Oval Office. His expression was grim, but determined as he addressed the camera. "This message is for Admiral Zexar of the Voran Empire. I speak as the elected representative of the United Nations of Earth. We are a peaceful planet, but will defend ourselves if threatened. We request a dialogue to discuss your intentions and seek a peaceful resolution that respects our sovereignty. We await your response." The message was transmitted toward the alien fleet. Minutes passed without reply. "They're accelerating," Rodriguez reported suddenly. "New estimated arrival time, 90 minutes. Jake felt his heart rate increase. "They're not waiting for an answer. All Prometheus vessels, execute maneuver Theta." Captain Grant's voice came through the speakers. "Prepare probability fields for defensive configuration." The next hour was the longest of Jake's life. The command center tracked both the incoming alien armada and the Prometheus fleet as they moved into what Grant had called a dimensional intercept formation. Suddenly, a brilliant flash appeared on the main display. "Energy weapon discharge from the lead alien vessel," reported a technician. "Target appears to be the quantum barrier around Earth." The barrier, another secret project, capable of absorbing and dispersing energy attacks, flared as it intercepted the blast. "Barrier holding at 97% integrity," the technician continued. "It was a probing shot, testing our defenses." Jake opened the channel to Grant. "They're testing the barrier. How much longer?" "Prometheus fleet is in final position," she replied. "On my mark. Now." On the display, the 500 Prometheus vessels suddenly seemed to blink out of existence. "What happened? Did we lose them?" Jake demanded. "Negative," Grant replied, her voice calm. "They've shifted partially out of phase with normal space-time. The aliens can't see them now." Admiral Zexar observed the test shot with interest. "Their planetary shield is more advanced than expected. Curious." "Should we commence full bombardment?" Commander Vrel asked. "Yes. All vessels. Target their shield's emission points. Concentrated fire should overload their systems quickly." Throughout the massive Voran fleet, weapons powered up. 50,000 energy beams prepared to strike Earth simultaneously. Enough power to reduce the surface to molten slag if the shield failed. "Fire!" Zexar commanded. 50,000 beams of superheated plasma streaked toward Earth. On the GDSC displays, they appeared as a solid wall of energy that would overwhelm any conventional defense. But just as the beams reached the midpoint between the Voran fleet and Earth, something impossible happened. The beams missed. Not all at once, but in cascading waves. The energy weapons bent away from their targets, curving into empty space, as if deflected by some invisible force. "What is happening?" Zexar demanded, his composure slipping for the first time. "Unknown, Admiral," replied his tactical officer. "Our targeting systems read as functioning perfectly, but the beams are being redirected." "Impossible! Fire again, all vessels!" A second volley launched, with the same result. Not a single beam reached the Earth's quantum barrier. And then, something new appeared on the Voran sensors. 500 small vessels, seemingly materializing from nowhere, now surrounded the Voran fleet in a three-dimensional web formation. "Admiral," the communications officer called out. "We're receiving a transmission from one of the Earth vessels." "Put it through," Zexar ordered, his four eyes narrowing in anger. Captain Michelle Grant's voice filled the Voran command ship. "Admiral Zexar, this is Captain Grant of Earth Defense Forces. Your weapons cannot harm us. What you are experiencing is a probability manipulation field. Within this field, the chance of your weapons hitting their targets has been reduced to effectively zero." "Preposterous," Zexar snarled. "No technology can alter probability itself." "Ours can," Grant replied simply. "You have one chance to withdraw your fleet and leave our solar system. Otherwise, we will be forced to eliminate the threat you pose." Zexar laughed, a harsh, guttural sound. "You have 500 vessels. We have 50,000. Your bluff is noted but rejected. All vessels, target the Earth ships and fire at will." Throughout the Voran fleet, weapons reoriented toward the nearest Prometheus vessels. Energy beams lanced out, and once again curved harmlessly away. "Now," Grant said quietly. From each Prometheus vessel, a thin beam of what looked like liquid silver extended toward the nearest Voran ships. Where these beams touched the Voran vessels, something extraordinary happened. The ships simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no debris. They simply vanished from reality. In the GDSC command center, Jake and his team watched in awe as the alien fleet began to disappear in rapidly expanding waves. "What are we seeing?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Kane, who had returned to the command center, answered. "The dimensional shears. They don't destroy the ships. They remove them from our reality entirely, placing them into a parallel dimension where they can no longer affect us." On the main display, a counter tracked the remaining alien vessels, 40,000, 30,000, 20,000. Aboard his command ship, Admiral Zexar watched in horror as his fleet vanished around him. "Impossible," he repeated, but with less conviction now. "All remaining vessels, prepare for dimensional jump. Retreat to Rally Point Alpha." "Sir, the dimensional drive requires 3 minutes to charge," his navigation officer reported, panic evident in his voice. "We don't have 3 minutes," Commander Vrel said quietly, pointing to the tactical display. The web of Earth vessels was contracting, methodically erasing the once mighty Voran fleet from existence. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "Captain Grant is hailing us again." Zexar hesitated, then nodded. His pride was substantial, but his survival instinct was stronger. Grant's voice was level. "Admiral, we are allowing your command ship and 16 others to escape as witnesses. Return to your empire and deliver this message. Earth is off limits. Any future aggression will be met with the same response. We have no interest in conquest or retaliation, but we will defend ourselves absolutely." The remaining 17 Voran ships, including Zexar's command vessel, accelerated away from Earth as soon as their dimensional drives charged. Behind them, the last of their massive invasion force disappeared under the silver beams of the Prometheus fleet. In the GDSC command center, a cheer erupted as the counter reached zero. The entire engagement had lasted just 4 minutes and 37 seconds from first shot to final retreat. Jake slumped in his chair, exhaustion and relief washing over him. "We did it. We actually did it." Dr. Kane placed a hand on his shoulder. "Humanity has faced its first interstellar threat and survived." On the main screen, the Prometheus vessels were powering down their weapons and reforming into a defensive screen around Earth. Captain Grant's face appeared on the communication channel. "GDSC, this is Grant. Threat neutralized. Prometheus fleet standing by for further instructions." Jake straightened in his chair. "Captain, on behalf of everyone at GDSC, thank you." Grant allowed herself a small smile. "Thank the scientists who spent 15 years creating this technology, Colonel. Today was just the implementation." Dr. Kane stepped forward. "Captain, The President is requesting your presence at an emergency United Nations session. The world deserves to know what happened here. Understood. I'll be there. Grant out. As the communication ended, Jake turned to Dr. Kane. What happens now? She looked thoughtful. Now, everything changes. Humanity just announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. For better or worse, we're no longer alone, and no longer unknown. The Voran Empire had ruled unchallenged for 15,000 years. Its military might was legendary, its conquests innumerable. No civilization had ever successfully resisted, let alone defeated, a full Voran invasion force. Until now. Admiral Zexar stood before the Imperial Council, his posture rigid, but his 4 eyes downcast in the Voran expression of shame. He had just finished his report on the Earth encounter, including the complete loss of 49,983 warships. You expect us to believe, said High Counselor Drax, that a primitive world with no interstellar capability defeated our most advanced fleet using probability manipulation and dimensional displacement. I have provided all sensor data, Excellency, Zexar replied. The evidence is irrefutable. The council chamber, a vast circular hall on the Voran homeworld, fell silent as the 12 counselors considered this information. If this technology exists, said Counselor Mira, the only female on the council, it represents a fundamental threat to Imperial security. These humans must be eliminated before they can share it with other worlds. With respect, Counselor, Zexar said, I would advise against further military action against Earth. Their defensive capabilities are beyond anything we have encountered. A second attack would likely fail as completely as the first. High Counselor Drax leaned forward. Are you suggesting the mighty Voran Empire should fear a single primitive world? Zexar chose his words carefully. I am suggesting we reassess our classification of Earth as primitive. Their technological development has clearly taken a different path than ours, focusing on fundamental physics rather than conventional weaponry. The outcome speaks for itself. The debate continued for hours. Some counselors advocated for assembling an even larger fleet to overwhelm Earth's defenses. Others suggested more subtle approaches, infiltration, sabotage, or biological warfare. In the end, a compromise was reached. The Empire would not immediately attack Earth again, but would begin gathering intelligence and searching for weaknesses in their defense system. Meanwhile, all information about the defeat would be strictly controlled to prevent undermining Imperial authority elsewhere in the galaxy. What the Voran Council didn't realize was that they were already too late. The news was spreading. Throughout the conquered worlds of the Empire, whispers began circulating about a small blue planet that had stood against the invincible Voran fleet, and won. On Earth, the following days were filled with revelations and adjustments. The existence of Project Prometheus was officially acknowledged, though many technical details remained classified. Captain Michelle Grant became the public face of Earth's defense forces, briefing the United Nations and appearing in carefully managed media interviews. The psychological impact on humanity was profound. The knowledge that Earth was not alone in the universe, and that some extraterrestrial civilizations were hostile, created initial panic in many regions. But this was balanced by pride in humanity's successful defense and the reassurance provided by the Prometheus technology. 1 week after the invasion attempt, Captain Grant and Lieutenant Colonel Jake Martinez found themselves in a secure room beneath the Pentagon, debriefing a select committee of military and civilian leaders. The Voran will return, Grant stated matter-of-factly. Maybe not next week or next year, but eventually. They've ruled their empire through fear and overwhelming force. Our victory challenges their entire power structure. Can Prometheus protect us again? Asked the Secretary of Defense. Yes, Grant replied. But we shouldn't rely solely on defensive measures. The Voran now know about our probability manipulation technology. They'll work to develop countermeasures. Jake stepped forward. That's why we're proposing Operation Lighthouse. He activated a holographic display showing the solar system and nearby stars. The Voran found us by accident during routine expansion. But there are other civilizations out there, some potentially friendly. We need to establish contact, create alliances. You're suggesting we reveal ourselves to the galaxy at large? Asked a senator on the committee. Dr. Kane, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. The cat's already out of the bag, Senator. The Voran know about us, which means others soon will too. We can hide and hope no one else finds us, or we can proactively shape our place in the galactic community. The discussion continued well into the night, but the fundamental decision was made. Earth would begin reaching outward, seeking allies among the stars. The Prometheus fleet would be expanded, with new vessels incorporating improvements based on what they'd learned during the battle. 3 months after the invasion attempt, a significant breakthrough occurred. Monitoring stations detected a weak signal emanating from a star system 40 light-years away. Unlike the Voran communications, this signal appeared to be deliberately aimed at Earth. Jake was reviewing the data when Dr. Kane entered his office at the newly expanded GDSC facility. Is it genuine? She asked without preamble. All evidence suggests so, Jake replied. It's using a mathematical sequence that couldn't occur naturally, and it includes what appears to be a navigation marker, coordinates for a location. A meeting place? Jake nodded. That's our best guess. Someone out there wants to talk. Dr. Kane studied the star chart he'd pulled up. The coordinates are for a location in neutral space, away from both Earth and known Voran territory. Interesting. Captain Grant is preparing a Prometheus vessel for the journey, Jake said. The President has authorized first contact. Who's going? Grant will command the mission. I've been asked to join as the GDSC representative. Dr. Kane raised an eyebrow. Quite a promotion from monitoring space debris. Jake smiled ruefully. Life's full of surprises. 3 months ago, I was bored out of my mind. Now I'm heading to meet aliens who might become our first galactic allies. The Voran won't sit idle while we build alliances, Dr. Kane cautioned. No, they won't. But every day gives us more time to prepare, to improve our technology. And apparently, we're not the only ones who have issues with the Empire. The signal had included one phrase, repeated in several mathematical permutations, that the linguistics team had tentatively translated. The oppressed stand together. 2 weeks later, the Prometheus vessel Horizon departed Earth orbit, carrying a crew of 20 specialists, including Captain Grant and Lieutenant Colonel Martinez. Their destination, a small moon orbiting a gas giant in a star system designated HD 176051. The journey would take just under 3 days, using the Prometheus drive's partial dimensional shift capability, another application of the technology that had been developed alongside the weapon systems. Preparing for dimensional transition, announced the navigation officer as the Horizon reached the edge of the solar system. Jake, seated beside Captain Grant on the command deck, felt a mixture of anxiety and exhilaration. I never thought I'd leave the solar system, he murmured. Grant gave him a sidelong glance. Getting cold feet, Colonel? No, ma'am. Just contemplating how quickly everything's changed. That's the nature of inflection points in history, she replied. Decades of gradual development. Then everything shifts in an instant. The Voran invasion was our inflection point. Dimensional drive engaged, called the navigation officer. A subtle vibration ran through the ship, and the view on the main screen shifted. The stars seemed to stretch and blur at the edges, while remaining crystal clear in the center of the field. Transition complete, the officer confirmed. All systems nominal. Estimated arrival at HD 176051. 68 hours, 17 minutes. Jake settled back in his chair. Humanity's first intentional voyage beyond the solar system was underway. Whatever awaited them at the destination would shape Earth's future in the galactic community. The rendezvous location turned out to be a desolate, airless moon. As the horizon established orbit, sensors detected a structure on the surface, artificial and clearly not of human origin. "It appears to be some kind of meeting facility," reported the science officer. "Environmental readings indicate a pressurized interior with atmosphere compatible with human physiology." "Convenient," Jake commented. "Or deliberately designed that way," Grant replied. "Someone's gone to considerable effort to arrange this meeting." After establishing secure communications with Earth and receiving final authorization, Grant selected a landing party that included herself, Jake, and 3 specialists, a xenolinguist, a xenobiologist, and a security officer. The Horizon shuttle descended to the moon's surface, landing near the entrance to the alien structure. Suited up in lightweight environmental gear, the team approached the airlock. "Ready?" Grant asked, her hand poised over what appeared to be an access panel. Jake nodded, his mouth suddenly dry. "Ready." The outer door slid open silently, revealing a small chamber. Once inside, the outer door closed, and after a brief cycle, the inner door opened to a well-lit corridor. "Atmosphere reads as oxygen-nitrogen mix," the xenobiologist reported. "Pressure and temperature within human comfort range." Following Grant's lead, they cautiously removed their helmets. The air tasted slightly metallic but was breathable. The corridor led to a circular chamber with a large round table in the center. 7 chairs, clearly designed for different physiologies, were arranged around it. No one was present. "We're the first to arrive," Jake observed. "Or we're being observed before they reveal themselves," Grant countered, her eyes scanning the room for surveillance devices. They didn't have to wait long. A door on the opposite side of the chamber slid open, and 3 beings entered. Jake had tried to prepare himself for this moment, but the reality of seeing truly alien life forms still took his breath away. The beings were roughly humanoid in the sense of having a central body with limbs and a head-like structure. But the similarities ended there. The foremost alien had iridescent blue-green skin that seemed to ripple with subtle patterns. 4 arms extended from its torso, and its large, faceted eyes dominated a narrow face. Behind it came 2 beings of a different species, shorter, with gray-brown exoskeletons and multiple small appendages that moved with precise coordination. The blue-green being stepped forward and spoke. To Jake's astonishment, he understood the words perfectly. "Welcome, representatives of Earth. I am Ambassador Threll of the Nizarian Coalition. My companions are Delegates Kret and Morrow of the Palaxian Assembly. We have been expecting you." Captain Grant stepped forward. "I am Captain Michelle Grant of Earth Defense Forces. This is Lieutenant Colonel Jake Martinez of the Global Defense System Command, and our specialist team. We received your signal and came as requested." Ambassador Threll's skin rippled in what might have been a gesture of acknowledgement. "Your victory over the Voran Empire has created opportunities. For too long, many worlds have suffered under Imperial dominance. Your demonstration that the Voran can be defeated has ignited hope throughout the suppressed worlds." "We defended ourselves," Grant said carefully. "We have no quarrel with other civilizations. But the Voran have a quarrel with you now," said Delegate Kret. Its voice a series of clicks that somehow translated to clear speech. "They will not accept such a defeat. They will return, with new strategies, new weapons." Jake stepped forward. "Are you suggesting an alliance against the Voran Empire?" "We are suggesting," Ambassador Threll replied, "a coalition of free worlds, not merely for defense, but for mutual advancement, trade, and cultural exchange. The galaxy has been dominated by the Voran philosophy of conquest and subjugation for too long. A new paradigm is possible." "How many worlds do you represent?" Grant asked. "Currently, 17 systems have declared independence from the Empire since news of your victory spread. Another 32 maintain official allegiance, but secretly support our coalition. With Earth's technology and our combined resources, we believe many more would join. The meeting continued for hours as the Earth representatives learned about the complex political landscape of the galaxy. The Voran Empire controlled nearly 1,000 star systems directly, with another 2,000 paying tribute as vassal states. But their hold on many worlds was maintained through fear rather than loyalty. Your probability manipulation technology is unknown in our experience, Ambassador Threll explained. Combined with dimensional displacement, it represents a paradigm shift in defensive capabilities. If we could implement similar systems on key worlds, the Empire's military advantage would be neutralized. You're asking us to share our most advanced technology, Grant observed. That's a significant request. We understand your caution. Delegate Morrow spoke for the first time, its voice melodious despite the alien physiology. But consider this. Alone, Earth may eventually fall to the Empire's persistence. Together, we could end their tyranny permanently and establish a new era of galactic cooperation. Jake exchanged glances with Grant. The stakes had just been raised exponentially. What had begun as Earth's defense against a single invasion was evolving into potential involvement in what amounted to a galactic civil war. We'll need to consult with our government, Grant said finally. This decision affects all of humanity. Of course, Ambassador Threll replied. But do not delay too long. The Empire is already adapting its strategy. They have recalled fleets from 17 sectors to reinforce their core worlds. They are frightened, and that makes them dangerous. As the Earth delegation prepared to return to their ship, Ambassador Threll approached Jake privately. Colonel Martinez, your role in detecting the initial invasion was crucial. Without that early warning, events might have unfolded very differently. Jake shrugged. I was doing my job. Perhaps. But now I sense you will have a new role to play. The coming conflict will require not just weapons, but understanding, bridges between different species and cultures. Remember that when you return to Earth. The return journey gave Jake ample time to reflect on the ambassador's words. The Horizon maintained constant communication with Earth, transmitting detailed reports of everything they had learned. By the time they arrived home, the United Nations had already convened a special session to discuss the proposed coalition. 6 months after the initial Voran invasion attempt, Earth formally joined the Galactic Coalition of Free Worlds. The decision was not unanimous. Some nations feared deeper involvement in extraterrestrial conflicts, but the majority recognized that isolation was no longer an option. Captain Michelle Grant was appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the coalition, with Jake serving as her military attaché. Together, they would represent humanity's interests in this new interstellar community. The formal ceremony took place at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Representatives from 12 coalition worlds attended, the first official extraterrestrial delegation to visit Earth. The event was broadcast globally, watched by billions of humans coming to terms with their new place in the universe. President Murphy signed the coalition charter, then handed the ceremonial pen to Ambassador Threll. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning. The President said to the assembled delegates and the watching world, humanity has faced its first interstellar challenge and emerged stronger. We do not seek conflict, but neither will we shrink from defending freedom, our own or that of our new allies. Ambassador Threll's skin rippled with patterns that the human attendees were learning to recognize as expressions of solemn approval. The coalition welcomes Earth not as a subject or a client, but as an equal partner, Threll declared. Together, we will build a galaxy where conquest gives way to cooperation, where diversity is celebrated rather than suppressed. After the ceremony, Jake found himself standing with Dr. Kane on a balcony overlooking the East River, watching the lights of the city against the darkening sky. 15 years ago, when we started Project Prometheus, I never imagined this outcome, Kane admitted. We were building a last-ditch defense system, not the foundation for a galactic alliance. Life takes unexpected turns, Jake replied. 3 months ago, I was bored out of my mind monitoring space debris. Now I'm preparing to leave Earth as part of an interstellar diplomatic mission. Scared? Jake considered the question. Nervous, certainly, but also hopeful. We've been given an opportunity to help shape something extraordinary. Dr. Kane smiled. Just remember what made Prometheus successful in the first place. It wasn't just advanced technology. It was the human ingenuity behind it. That's what you and Captain Grant need to bring to the Coalition. Speaking of technology, Jake said. The Coalition has already submitted formal requests for access to the probability manipulation systems. I know. The Scientific Council is debating how much to share. It's a balance. We need their trust and cooperation. But some applications of the technology could be devastating in the wrong hands. Their conversation was interrupted by an aide who approached with a tablet. Colonel Martinez, Dr. Kane, you're needed in the secure conference room. We've detected an unusual signal from the Tau Ceti system. Jake and Kane exchanged glances. Tau Ceti was in the opposite direction from known Varan space, a region the Coalition representatives had described as unexplored territory. What kind of signal? Jake asked as they followed the aide. Unknown configuration, sir. But it's definitely artificial, and it appears to be directed specifically at Earth. In the conference room, Captain Grant was already reviewing the data with several Coalition scientists. What do we have? Dr. Kane asked as they entered. Grant looked up. Something new. The signal pattern doesn't match anything in the Coalition database. It's not Varan, not Coalition, not any known species. Another player entering the game, Jake murmured. Or an opportunity, Grant replied. The Coalition represents less than 5% of the galaxy. There must be thousands of other civilizations out there, many with no connection to the Varan conflict. Ambassador Threll, who had joined the analysis team, spoke up. This signal uses a mathematical structure similar to the one we sent to Earth, but with significant differences. I believe it may be an invitation or a warning. Can we respond? Jake asked. We're preparing a transmission now, Grant confirmed. A basic mathematical sequence that should communicate our willingness to establish contact without revealing too much about our capabilities. As the team worked to compose the response, Jake stepped back to observe. In just 6 months, humans were working alongside multiple alien species as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The adjustment had been remarkably swift, perhaps because the alternatives, isolation or conquest, were clearly worse options. The signal from Tau Ceti represented another unknown, another potential ally or enemy. But whatever emerged from this new contact, Earth was no longer alone and unprepared. They had technology, allies, and a growing understanding of their place in a vastly more complex universe than they had imagined. Transmission ready, announced one of the technicians. Captain Grant nodded to Jake and Dr. Kane. Shall we introduce ourselves to the neighborhood? By all means, Kane replied with a smile. The more friends we make, the better our chances of surviving what's coming. Jake took a deep breath as Grant gave the order to transmit. Another chapter in humanity's new interstellar story was beginning. Message sent, the technician confirmed. Estimated time to Tau Ceti at light speed, 12 years. We may not have to wait that long for a response. Ambassador Threll noted. If they possess technology similar to ours or the Varan, they likely have FTL communication capabilities. As if on cue, the monitoring system chimed. A new transmission was already arriving from Tau Ceti, sent almost simultaneously with Earth's response. That was fast, Jake said. Grant leaned forward as the data began processing. Let's see what they have to say. The future, humanity's future among the stars, was unfolding before them, full of unknowns, but rich with possibility. The Varan invasion that had seemed like an existential threat had instead become the catalyst for Earth's emergence onto the galactic stage. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them, not as a single, isolated world, but as part of something greater. A coalition of diverse species united by common values of freedom and self-determination. As the translation program began deciphering the new message from Tau Ceti, Jake found himself thinking of Admiral Zexar and the Voran Empire. They had arrived at Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had inadvertently awakened a sleeping giant and set in motion events that might eventually lead to their own downfall. Sometimes, Jake reflected, the greatest miscalculation is underestimating your opponent. The Voran had made that mistake with Earth. Earth would not make the same mistake as they ventured out into the galaxy. The translation completed, and the message appeared on the main screen. Jake, Grant, Kane, and Ambassador Threll leaned forward together to read the first words from this new civilization. We have observed. We have waited. Now, at last, we may speak as equals. The Guardians welcome Earth to the greater community of worlds. A new chapter had begun,